these commissioners and decisions they make throughout the year guide our county and make it a better place for everyone. We ask these things in your name. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lance, would you do the roll call, please?
Pitts.
Yes.
Commissioner Toller. Commissioner Foster.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Gould is absent.
Having a quorum, I'll call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our July 12th regular meeting. Everybody had a chance to review those. Any questions or want to give a motion to approve them?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Pitts.
Yes.
Mr. Toller.
Yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes. Any public comments from anyone?
I've noticed that the treasurer's report is not even on the agenda anymore. I was wondering why we don't get more than now.
No particular reason other than we're still setting up a little bit of a new format on that where it's a little easier to understand. We're not, obviously not trying to hide anything, we're just giving Lee a chance to get it put together the way she wants to, and it's just taking a little longer. So it will be back on the agenda. Anything else? Committee reports.
Had a Shawnee development meeting. I did have an update there. I did have a Union County breakdown on the energy assistance grants of 541 of those grants for Union County residents. We had quite a food delivery last Monday. We had our regulars there. In fact, we got a couple of them here that helped with that. But we had a lot of help from the Lutheran Church in Hannah. A lot of their people came by and helped a lot. And then with having the extra 5 pallets as well as what came in, it was very helpful. Also, I want to talk just a little bit about the shredding and disposal day, which we had last Saturday here at the courthouse. It was held out here on the east parking lot. There was a total of, well, first of all, it was a cooperated effort between Southern Southern Health Department, Union County Farm Bureau, and the county. And there were 90 people that came through on Saturday. There was 3,035 pounds of shredded documents, which is quite a bit. There was also 77 pounds of medication that came through, which is a lot if you consider what a little bit all was. But, I'd just like to thank everybody that helped. Of course, Southern Southern Health Department, Natalie was there. There was 5 employees from the health department there. They're the ones that actually got the grant for this. The Farm Bureau, Stephanie Rose was there, and she set up refreshments and snacks for everybody. Of course, we want to thank the Sheriff's Department for taking the medication and making sure it's disposed of in the correct way. We want to thank the AJ football coach, Dieter, and his boys that came by. When a car or a truck would drive us, they were on quick, and they did. It was a very hot day, and they did unload it and get it taken care of. So they were very much helpful. And it was a hot day, but it was a good day. We provided the service to the people of the county, and had a lot of good comments about people that sometimes we drive out of county to these events, and they were glad that we actually had that, something here before that, and it was a free service, so.
Hopefully we can maybe do that on a regular basis. We can work it out.
Yes, now he's gonna try and write another grant for, in the future, so we're gonna try and do it again.
Any other committee reports from anyone? Building permits?
First one's for Richard and Mary Jane Bennett, 0425024898. It's for a home addition, no subdivision or floodplain issues. It's recommended for approval. Next is Brenda Newton, 0219000942A, for a mobile home, no subdivision or floodplain issues. It's recommended for approval.
While everybody's looking at those, Kevin, you want to give a little update? I think everybody's probably seen the news that they can get the Cape now.
Yeah, it goes open this afternoon, and several of our roads are starting to open themselves. We've got a lot of damage on them. We turned in $552,000 worth of damage to IEMA for assessment, and we're starting to repair some of those as they open and at least get them passable.
I think the total we turned into the county was about 675.
Yeah, I thought it's 670-ish.
Somewhere along there. Very good.
We're expecting to open Bower Road probably Wednesday or so next week. Also, got that bridge by then. Depending on handrail.
How many more bridges have we got to go now?
As far as wood decks,
Yeah.
still have about 40 in the county. We're going to probably get about 20 of those this year. This one, and,
What's it, Logan coming all the time.
as long as they stay.
Yeah,
Now, do they know of them yet too, right?
Yes, we just started that last week, making our way around the county. We're also trying to continue mowing.
Any questions on the building permits? Anybody? Can I get a motion to approve, please? I'll say.
Mr. Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Toller,
yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes. Under old business, ordinance authorizing a mutual aid box alarm system agreement. We've got that ready to go now. Grant has been working on this. Tyler has looked at it, everything's in order. Otherwise known as Mavis. Anybody have any questions about that, or Grant, you need to expound upon that anymore, or anything?
I think the upside for Union County is us being able to access some needed resources if we was needing for a natural disaster or overwhelming event. This gives us access to people that do that specialized type of work that we don't do. So it's a system used to all of a sudden all the way out most of the state. I think it's going to be a good addition for us.
Appreciate all your efforts on it. I know it's taken a little while, but I think it's a good asset to the county. I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance authorizing mutual aid box alarm system agreement. Second.
Commissioner Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Toller,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes. We're still tabling the subcontractor agreement between Union County and Melissa Grissom Transportation Company. Did I see that that's going to change, or?
She has actually identified a second vendor too, so she's talking to both of them to see what would be the best for us. So there's a chance that this will come off and a different company will come off.
New business, approval of payment of bills. Everybody had a chance to look at the bills. Any questions? Get a motion to pay the bills, please.
Commissioner Pitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Toller?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes. Next on the agenda is gun sanctuaries, prosecutorial nullification. Mr. John Whittenborn had asked to do a presentation. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'll apologize right off the bat in case you thought there'd be somebody up there that looks like Brad Pitt or speaks like James Earl Jones. You got somebody who looks like an extra off of Old Brother Where Art Thou and talks like Bill Balfour. Bear with me, I've got a few things here that hopefully will help us talk. Angie's helped me out a bunch with this. So we've got a few graphics. My name is Jeff Whittenborn. That's what I've gone by. My first name is John, which got too confusing for the state police, so they stuck me with reading JJ off my name tag for almost 30 years, and that's kind of what I've gone by. I'm here as a private citizen, not as part of any group or representing anybody, to talk about the gun sanctuary issues and give you all some options to consider, and take a look at what's been going on throughout the state. I'm a retired state police officer. I spent almost 30 years in the ISP, control, investigation, SWAT. My SWAT team duties also included instruction and everything from pistols through submachine guns up to sniper rifles and dealt with criminals all over the state. My last duties as a SWAT team member were as a team commander for the 31 southern counties in the state. I live in Williamson County, have a small farm up in White County, grew up in Jackson, but have a lot of connections here in Union County by the way of friends and some family, all the way back to my granddad, who donated one of the feeder sows for the Bald Mountain Cross construction project back during the Depression. A lot of folks throughout the state, from the people I've talked to, are very concerned with some of the laws that are being proposed and some of the rhetoric that goes about. Everything from threats to seize constitutionally protected arms from private citizens, ban certain things, impose more taxes, raise FOID fees from $10 every 10 years up to $150 counting the costs and fees and mandatory fingerprints, and a lot of rhetoric that goes around. It's a bipartisan thing that seems to be driven more by some urban centers trying to impose their will on more rural areas, and kind of displace the blame for the failed policies in urban areas and displace them on the private gun owners and kind of punish us for what's going on. The gun sanctuary movement itself started up in Effingham County and Iroquois County in spring of last year. This is a copy of the Effingham County resolution that was written up by one of their board members. The Iroquois County board, also one of their members, Chad McGinn, started off as well. It took off. There are variations of this throughout the state. I proposed the ones for White County, also spoke over Gallatin County a few weeks ago. Currently, as you can see on the map, there are 66 counties that have approved some form of this. 18 counties had gun sanctuary or some type of a referendum on the ballot in 2018. All 18 passed by an average of nearly 80% of the registered voters. And we know what the registered voters also make up, their jury pools. So it's a very strong statement. In some cases, it's non-binding. Other cases, like the Effingham County and many others, they stipulate that county resources will not be used to supplement any unconstitutional acts by the legislature that passed. Some of these acts do also have issues instead of just the Second Amendment, also have concerns with the 1st, 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 10th, and 14th. It's not just one or the other. One of the mandates is that a person, at least the proposed bill, turn over all social media accounts and passwords to the state police before they'll even issue you a FOIA card. That one hasn't passed yet, but it is under consideration. That seems to be quite an intrusion in a person's private life before they can actually even exercise their civil rights. And this is, to my way of thinking, a civil rights issue. Part of the Bill of Rights is the Second Amendment, all those others that I mentioned. It's not an abstract thought. I had to tell my operations lieutenant when I was a young trooper that I wouldn't abide by an order to seize firearms whenever the feds were going through certain housing units without a warrant, knocking on the doors and just going right in without a warrant to search for any and all firearms. That was taking place and it was stopped by an injunction. Fine. None of the proposed bills that are out there will have any effect on violent crime that I've seen, and they go all over the place, attacking anything from a certain type of firearm to a magazine and from there. Again, the 66 counties have passed this. Let's see if I can pull up a graphic, and you can throw something at me if I mess this up. Any thoughts, Dave? All right, what I'm going to attempt to pull up is just a very brief animation of how rapidly this has gone, if it does come up. And it will show this map here. This is the start of it. You can see it growing rapidly throughout the state. And this is just spring of 2018. It's just a couple minutes long, and it started out obviously in kind of south central Illinois and eastern Illinois. The green counties are the ones that have passed a resolution or referendum. The yellow and orange are where it's under consideration. The red is where it hasn't been considered or they refuse to do so. Right now, this is just up in May of last year. That's only about a month or two into it. And these are private citizens and county board members just going and speaking to the board like I am now. It's not a concerted effort. I'm not here as an NRA guy or State Rifle Association or anything else. This is just people that are very concerned with the direction that the state is going, trying to turn us into some version of New York City or Chicago, to my knowledge. And a lot of folks are really concerned about that. They don't want to surrender their rights. They don't want to surrender their constitutionally protected items. And they don't want to knock on the door in the middle of the night. So the sanctuary is to give an indication to the people that they support them in their rights and against oppressive government actions. Also gives support to the sheriff's office and the state's attorney should they choose to come on board with that down the road too. The dark green counties that you'll see pop up, if it's clear enough, you can see on the handout, are ones where state's attorneys have announced full nullification. Okay, we're into spring of 2019 here, and the dark green counties are popping up there with state's attorneys that have announced they will not prosecute. Again, 13 have done so publicly, and there are about twice that many that have announced it or have spoken about it publicly. Okay. The Effingham County resolution again is very strong. The one that I helped the White County Board with, where I knew several members over there from having worked in that area a lot, they were concerned with the term sanctuary. And one of the county board chairman said, JJ, we're just worried about a bunch of skinheads and about to pick up truck drive through town vehicles. And, that's not really what it's about. My way of thinking, it's just, the statement goes out of this is what we support. It can give direction to the sheriff and the state's attorneys, or it can be just a blanket statement of this is what we support and this is what we oppose. It's up to the board to draft their own or modify these. The one I took over there was modified off of one from Madison County. The Effingham County one has traveled about quite a bit. The one that was just approved in Gallatin County was written by their state's attorney and took several iterations back and forth between board members and the state's attorney before they found something that they like. Some of the things, I won't bother you because I know there's several other issues coming up on the agenda today. There's videos of various legislators stating that they have no problem with confiscating firearms, fingerprinting every citizen in Illinois if they think it'll make us safer, and going on down from that. The legislature has kind of clapped back at this. One introduced a referendum calling the counties that you see on the map scofflaw counties. They're name calling now. And another one introduced a bill that would ban county boards from passing ordinances against things that they don't like. So they're directly coming after folks in counties like this. The White County resolution again here. Angie has a copy of all these. It is a little bit, like I said, more general, where it doesn't go into the sanctuary wording quite as much, but it does focus more on civil rights, which I think is a crux to this, and does go back to the oaths that we took as public office holders, and that everyone in this area that I've met takes very seriously. I know the sheriff does, the different police agencies around here do as well. The referendum that was submitted and passed by the citizens is also attached to this if you want to look at it at your leisure at some other time. Other proposed laws that have come up, pull that up. Again, we spoke a little bit about the FOID, that they want to increase the fee to what's essentially $150 for every 5 years just to exercise the civil right. Surrender social media accounts, ammo tax of 1 cent per round, which adds up. And they want some of them want serial numbers on every bullet. Micro stamping, which the technology to do that really doesn't exist. It's kind of in theory form at this point in trial. Dealer licensing, which has already gone into effect, that has already closed down about 50% of the federal firearms licensees in the state of Illinois. Semi-auto magazine bans, and they also propose no person-to-person sales, that all firearm purchases have to go through FFLs, that you can't sell to your son or daughter or a family friend or anything like that. Trying to make this as quick as I can. The map again shows how this has gone. This is under consideration in many northern Illinois counties as well, not just southern Illinois. If we go back again to our oaths, a lot of times those do conflict for police officers because the oaths for law enforcement are typically to support the constitutions of the state and the federal government, also to enforce the state and federal laws. Oftentimes those are in direct conflict. So which do you choose? You choose the ones that are more likely to uphold the rights of the individual citizens rather than just blindly supporting and doing enacted law. If you look back to the Jim Crow eras, the civil rights eras, and things like that, the people who were lawbreakers were the ones who were being dragged off buses, attacked by dogs, and knocked down by fire. The ones who were abiding by the laws were the ones who were doing those things, and we look back at history and how does history view those people who were happy to enact those laws and enforce them on people sentenced into jail and prison. I think it's pretty egregious that in our history, in some of our lifetimes, that these things are taking place. These are quotes by some very brilliant people, all the way from Thoreau through Gandhi, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Solzhenitsyn, JFK, Frederick Douglass, and then some other legislators. Again, I think Angie has copies of this too. Do you not? If not, I'll give them to you.
I don't think that.
Okay, I'll include those two. But these are the ones that do set the stage for this as what it should be, is a civil rights issue. And that's what the board can do, is reassure its citizens that, hey, we are for the rights of our people down here, even if the legislature or others or the governor try to force something down our throats that we don't agree with, that we feel is completely contrary to the Constitution. Prosecutorial nullification, I'll touch on briefly. I rolled that out last fall to my state's attorney, Brandon Zanotti in Williamson County, and a couple others that I knew just briefly, or just a little bit, and offered the possibility to them that they would publicly announce they wouldn't prosecute for illegal acts, unconstitutional acts. Brandon jumped in on it, after a lot of back and forth discussion. A couple other state attorneys did. 13 others have done so publicly since that time. And 24 more have agreed to privately. They just don't want to make it a public spectacle. It's a bipartisan thing, both by the county boards, the county makeup, and the state's attorney. Brandon is a Democrat. It's an out from Williamson. The other two initial ones were Republican. It's all over the map. Literally. The Jasper County State's Attorney just put out a very strong statement that what his duty was and what prosecutors are trained to do, what they teach them in law school, is their responsibility is to do justice, not merely to seek convictions. And in that, they have the option to nullify what they consider unjust laws or improper cases. Law enforcement also has that option. That's what police discretion is. Judicial discretion as well, judicial nullification, jury nullification is a big one. These go all the way back to English common law, it's not a new thing. Blackstone's commentaries back, pretty much in the Middle Ages discusses this as well. That a jury feels that someone is charged with something, even if they think the technical elements of the crimes may have been met, it's up to them whether they want to vote for a conviction or not. It's completely up to the jury. So when it comes down to this, that's what the referendum is very strongly going to show is what percentage of the county's residents, the registered voters that also make up the jury pool, how are they going to react if somebody starts being arrested for laws that they are completely opposed to. And again, of the 18 counties that put this on the ballot, the average was almost 80%. Some counties were over 90%. With Madison, it was about 67 or so percent, even in an urban area. So the people, once you get out of Chicagoland area, are very much opposed to this as a direct message by the referendum. Hey, we don't agree with this, legislature, governor. Why don't you take another look at this and have an adult discussion, an irrational discussion? There's a lot of angst and even fear in a lot of people that, I'm worried about the direction that things are going with my rights, and how can we do something about this? This is one way to do it, where we go back to the county and some places even the township level, and our elected representatives closest to home can stand up to us and say, Springfield, Chicago, whoever, we're opposed to you, and we're going to do what we can to protect our citizens from the attacks and the seizures that you are threatening with. If you have any questions or so, then fire away. I'll try to answer them. And I try to condense this as much as I could, and I'll give a lot of this information to Angie so she can get it to y'all, and it'll be in written form if you want to make modifications or change anything. Nothing I send her is copyrighted. My stuff is not copyrighted, and a lot of these are from open source materials to public materials. So, if you have any questions, fire away.
Speak up, guys, if you have any questions. No, I'm forward.
As, I want to look at some of the information,
That's all I'm asking, just to review this, so we can have time and look at it for future reference. And then hopefully we'll start a discussion with some of the county residents where they can give their feedback to you and what they, state's attorney, I don't speak to the sheriff, state's attorney, anybody else, don't pretend to, don't speak for anybody. I'm just a private guy, retired, trying to keep my beard blowing up on my face, and that's about my daily routine. So, but if you have questions or comments down the road, and you've got my contact information, feel free to reach out to me. I'll help you where I can, at least give you information and let you make a decision for the public.
Matt, if I may, we have been circulating petitions regarding this issue,
Good.
and
You have one?
yes, I have one on my phone.
Over here. I'm sure.
And he is absolutely right. It is definitely a bipartisan issue. We were at the Annabelle Fest for probably 10 minutes, and it took me 10 minutes to get like 60 signatures. And no questions were asked. We didn't ask, are you Democrat or Republican? It's just we were just saying, we want you to be a registered voter in Union County, and be aware of what's going on. But people we're signing those like crazy, and we intend to, through the fair and, the next few weeks, we're gonna get some more petitions signed, but I can guarantee you folks, the people of Union County are for this.
And so,
And I also want to say that my family and I have a tremendous respect for our law enforcement officers in Union County and everywhere, and when you watch, I'm sure you guys have watched TV, what's going on in New York,
mhm.
what's going on in Chicago, and we can't let those kind of communities dictate to us, because we are and I'm just gonna say this, I shouldn't say it like this, we are a totally different breed of people than in those communities.
And from my mind, it has nothing to do with what political party or race, gender, or anything like that. It's completely
It's
just a different mindset.
It's a civil, like you said, it's not a privilege, it's a right.
Agreed. Thank you. Those maps are from a website called Gun Rights Watch. I got permission from the owner of that to use them, so feel free to spread those around. Anybody else have anything? I'll get out of there when I get more important things to talk about. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Mr. Whitmore. We will, as the board, review the materials you will get us and take everything into consideration.
I'll be there. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have a resolution relating to participation by elected officials in the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. Again, this is pretty much a housekeeping item.
We do it every year.
Yeah, so it includes everybody basically, other than the county board is not involved in it.
That's the only change from last year, because none of the commissioners had elected to participate in IMRF.
Right. So I'll make a motion, resolution relating to participation by elected officials in the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, which includes circuit clerk, county coroner, county sheriff, state's attorney, and county treasurer.
I'll second.
Mr. Pitts?
Yes.
Mr. Toller?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes. Next on the agenda is acceptance of resignation of state's attorney and declaring a vacancy. I think everybody's pretty well seen the news and so forth. Tyler has been officially appointed to this position. I wish him well. I hate to see him go, but I think that'd be pretty hard to turn down. There's certain rules and so forth, the way this has to be done, little by little. It's not something that we can do today or tomorrow. We have to follow those guidelines. So he has given us a official letter resigning. It says, gentlemen, I write, to resign the office of Union County State's Attorney effective at 4 p.m. on Thursday, August 8, 2019. It has been a tremendous honor to serve the people of Union County over the past decade. Sincerely, Tyler R. Edmonds. I will make a motion to accept the resignation of State's Attorney Tyler Edmonds effective August 8th, 4 p.m. Therefore declaring a vacancy at that time for the State's Attorney's office. Second.
Second.
Mr. Pitts?
Yes.
Mr. Toller?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes. And I might add to that, Angela and Tyler have worked together we will be posting today on the website vacancy of that office, the specs for it, and so forth. It's not an office that we take lightly, nor any office in the county, but we want to try to help everybody we can get the best qualified people to apply for it. And we will pursue that down the road. Next on the agenda, resolution filing vacancy for office space attorney until such office is filled. In 2020 general election, that will be tabled due to procedure we have to go through. Final item on the agenda is approval of Union County Clerk election equipment bids. Lance, you want to
Sure.
address that, please?
Yep, we received bids on new election equipment. Wednesday at 4 p.m. was the cutoff. We had 2 turn-in bids. We opened them yesterday morning at 9 a.m. We received 2 bids, one from their current vendor, Platinum, with ES&S as the brand of equipment they have, and the other was Liberty, and they have Unison equipment. Both companies have met the criteria to turn in bids for us, certified with the State Board of Elections and everything. So Liberty's bid was $143,640. I did ask for financing options with these as well. They offered a financing plan. I broke it down for you guys, but a 6-year financing plan with $40,000 down on the first year. So the first year, and then the installment payments of $27,256 per payment per year for 6 years. And then if we wanted to own the equipment, that's actually a lease. And if we wanted to own the equipment, we had to lease it for 2 additional years at that price, which at the end of it, when it totaled up, was $258,048. Platinum turned in a bid of $149,920. They offered a 5-year purchase agreement, which we would own the equipment, but finance it through them with 0 down. 5-year payments of $32,973. Also, Liberty was at 5% interest rate. Liberty is at 2.99, which would total after the 5 years $164,865. So initially, my recommendation is to go with Platinum with the ES&S equipment. I feel that we've been with them for, well, Bobby, how long have we been with Platinum? Quite a long time. They know our county, they know the ins and outs, and we have got everything with them, and I feel extremely comfortable with them. Even if the initial cost was, $4,000 or $5,000 more, I think their equipment is actually that much better as well too. I feel that this is a long haul purchase, as we know, because the other equipment, Bobby, when we get that, you were in office, and it's probably 20 years old or longer. So, so this new equipment is leaps and bounds above that. But I did reach out to you guys, and I'll let you know another option. I would still go with the Platinum bid on this, but I got to thinking about with the financing, and reached out to some local banks, and I think we can actually be financed cheaper through local banks if we wanted to do that option. I feel like keeping our money local is probably a good move for us. So I asked Tyler yesterday if I'd have to put an RFP out or not with that. He said to do not. I can just reach out to the bank. So every bank that's in the county, I'm going to ask them if they would like to give me some terms on financing for this equipment. Knowing that one had already told me their rate and is already cheaper than the 2.99%. So I feel if we want to finance this, I feel like that'd be a good idea for us as well. So I guess what I'll ask today is if we want to go through with one of these, I would suggest we go with Platinum. And then if we want to, I can look into the financing at the next meeting and get you some terms and stuff, if that's what we want to do. So, if you have any questions or anything like that, let me know, or it's totally up to you guys, but if we can save a little bit on interest, let's stay local.
I don't have any problem with that at all. Local banks, I did that on some.
Yeah.
It worked.
It works at, I guess it's technically not a loan, it's a lease of the equipment through the bank, because since the municipality cannot get a loan, but it can be done, so. But that's, if, under your discretion, what you want me to do, but I did check into that too, so.
Anybody else have any opinions?
So I guess I'll just ask if we just direction of purchase, and then we can do the financing by the next meeting. We can decide what we want to do on that. Is that the where you want to go? Okay.
Well, I mean, it does look like too, from your chart there, you were talking about it's 4,000 or 5,000 initially higher bid from Liberty
Yeah.
than from Platinum, but in the long run, it's almost an $80,000 savings. Even if those are.
Sure.
So, I don't think any question about who, besides the fact that you mentioned would have worked with them and so forth.
Well, but if we do our own financing, you would just be buying the submitted bid price.
Right.
So Liberty actually would be cheaper on the lump sum price.
Well, yeah, if we go that direction.
Sure, but I just feel comfortable sticking with Platinum after.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bid from Platinum, giving, Angie and Lance the authority to negotiate with the local banks on a lower interest rate, and, that decision then to be made afterwards, but approving Platinum one way or another.
Okay. So the financing we can just go ahead and do, or do you want you guys to approve the financing through the banks?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm authorizing you and Angie to check with the banks, get the rates, and we'll make a decision on the financing then.
Sounds good. I'll have that ready by next meeting. So.
I'll say.
Okay. Commissioner Foster, I'm sorry, Pitts,
Yes.
went out of order there. Commissioner Toller,
Yes.
Mr. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes. We have nothing for executive session, right?
No.
Any other business anybody needs to bring up or discuss?
Max, I'd like to say one more thing. After coming to these meetings for several months, I just want you guys to know how appreciative I am as a Union County citizen, because I know being a board member is a thankless job. I just want to say I appreciate how all of you guys work together in a bipartisan manner to get the job done for Union County. We appreciate you guys.
I appreciate that. Do I get a motion to adjourn? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Had a phone call from Mr. Yates, president of our board, and he's asking if Mr. Brandon and his guys can help out if they're out there in the past years. One of the blessings.
I got a call a couple days ago, he said he was gonna approach the board. Said business as usual, we use a bar truck to haul, soil bedding out of the livestock barns for the FFA, judging. We used to provide a water tank and trash, that kind of thing. We're not living out there, and they use our equipment to move, the cages and stuff at rodeo, so that's kind of involvement we have. It's much less than it used to be, and it's not something that's detrimental to our operation.
And I think that's something we don't, we just kind of leave that up to you to take
We
care
keep
of.
it in check.
Yeah. Perfectly good, continue.
I just asked him to approach the board every year, make sure that you feel the same way about it, if you did,
I don't, know that anybody had any objections, so continue as usual.
Motion adjourned. I'm saying.
Commissioner Pitts, Commissioner Toller,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it.